I'm Jen from Rustic Rehabs, and I plan to paint my way through the DIY paint line in alphabetical order. We're starting with Americana. It is one of the JRV one-step paints, meaning the top coat is built in. So I'm giving it a really good stir, and then we're going to get to painting. This beautiful blue-green is named after my friend Jamie raised chickens. And if you know Jamie, she loves the color Apothecary, so this is really close to that, but has a built-in top coat. So the first thing you need to do is clean your piece really well, and then get a good soft brush. I'm using a Klingon F30 here. DIY paint is made for furniture. You don't have to sand, strip, or prime. You just get a good clean piece, a good brush, and get your paint on. You see me putting it on a little bit, dabbing it here and there to get in some of the different little divots on this old dresser, but then I'm going end to end. It's important to do these nice long strokes to get a really professional finish. This paint self-levels, and so it will look like it's almost sprayed on when it's done if you work it well. I end up doing 2 good coats on this dresser, and it covers up the gray pretty well. After that, I go around and I touch up areas that I missed, and then we will be ready to add a transfer. Americana is a cottage color. It's a one-step paint with the top coat built in. You'll find that in the white labels of the DIY paint line. The original paint is clay paint by DIY, and it has black labels, and that will need to be sealed with polyacrylic or wax. This is what they look like side by side. The other big thing to keep in mind is that you need to stir it often, and it is a lot thinner than the DIY paint, so you need to check for drips too. Make sure you're checking for paint pooling in the little crevices, in the drawers, and all of that, because it's a lot easier to clean it up as you're going than when you come back and you find a big drip that dried on your piece. I like to paint with the drawers in as much as possible. It helps me save space because I have a small painting room, and then I can see where the paint goes on old pieces where it doesn't line up perfectly. I'll often pop the drawers out to get the edges and make sure if there's any overlap that I get that covered too. Here you see me using a screwdriver to pop it open. Keep your drawers open between coats too so you don't seal them up. Ask me how I know that can happen. I put my first coat on at the end of the day, and then I came back the next morning and I'm putting on my second coat, again doing long strokes end to end. Day 3, new outfit. I'm grabbing the Prima All the Flowers transfer. I have one section left. I've used this on a few other pieces, and I'm going to put it on the top of the desk, and then we'll seal it in with some polyacrylic, get the knobs on, and this cutie will be done. I'm lining it up where I want it, trying to make sure it's centered, and then I'm cutting off all the edges so that I can put it together and have as little bit of a seam as possible. Prima transfers are so easy to use, and they give a hand-painted look that I could never figure out how to do on my own. And so I tell people when they come into my shop, whatever you see here, you can do, because the products are so user-friendly and you really get a lot of bang for your buck. Now that I know where I want it, I'm taking it off the backing and I am placing it on the piece. It's important your paint be good and dry, dust-free, and then get yourself one of these Prima transfer tools because they are well worth the $8 that they cost. Each transfer comes with a little wooden stick, but I find the tools, these plastic tools with the edges, are worth their weight in gold to get a transfer on nice and smooth. I've done hundreds of transfers and I've done them wrong plenty of times. My favorite way is to grab the corner, pull it up towards me while I'm pushing down on the tool, on the transfer, to get it to release. If it sticks part of it, just put it back down and keep pushing, and sometimes you need to go a different direction. I sit, I stand, I sit, I stand when I'm doing these big ones. It takes a minute, but it is so worth it. Take your time lining this up because often when you set the transfer down, even for a second, it will stick, and that is where it stays. Sometimes I trim off a little excess of the paper because it gets really loud and it starts to get in the way. You don't have to do that. In fact, you can cut these apart 100 different ways. This is just how I did it for this particular one. I like to put a little butterfly by the handle on the drawer, and now we are ready to seal. To seal in the transfer and give the top a little extra protection, I grabbed my Big Top polyacrylic from DIY. It's good to give it a good stir so things are all mixed in, and then again, long strokes. We're really trying to protect the transfer, but honestly, I think it's great to have another coat on the top too. The sheen will be a little bit more, a tiny bit more satin on the top than the rest of the piece, but it's so not noticeable that I'm not going to sweat it at all. Again, you're doing long strokes and then you're checking all the edges for drips and pooling because you don't want a little drip of polyacrylic. It's just not a good look. Now it's time to put on the handles and start jazzing this girl up. These, I believe, are the original handles that came with this desk. I don't know if it's an antique, but it is quite old. It has square bolts, so that to me is kind of a dead giveaway that it's old. I like to reuse the knobs when I can. These are so simple and classic. I knew that they would be great. But often changing the knobs in the pulls can be a complete game changer. I've seen some really good paint jobs where they left the 1980s kind of winged handles on there, and to me it's just, it kills the whole vibe. I get a lot of knobs on Amazon. Sometimes I go to Hobby Lobby too. As a reminder, this is what it looked like before. Drippy gray paint, dirty drawers, and meet Meredith. She is stunning, soft, pretty, good for any decor or room, and she is available in my shop. What do you think of this color? Did it live up to the hype? Drop me a comment below. Please give me a thumbs up if you learned anything. Next color will be Anvil.